Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the second episode of Womb Wisdom. I'm so happy to welcome Dr. Vasudha once again. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. So, ma'am, in the last episode of Womb Wisdom, we discussed about menarche. We discussed about how mothers can help their girl childs to have periods at a decent time of the age of 13 or 14, and many other problems of women that they go through during their menstruation cycle. This time, ma'am, I want to pick up on the hottest topic of this all, that is PMS, pre-menstruation stress. Now I know all of us, if you're a woman, you have experienced it. But one problem that we all go through is when we talk about it in our households to our husbands, bosses, boyfriends, or any men in our life, they seem to not understand the stress bit of it. So how we can help them understand what are we going through on a monthly basis?
Right. Well, namaste all. Very interesting subject for today, which is PMS. Well, PMS is actually premenstrual syndrome. Okay, so when women have menstruation, they also should show some signals. So let's look at PMS as that phase. But PMS is associated with a lot of physical, emotional, behavioral changes in women, which are attributed to the hormonal changes, right? So scientific evidence is not very clear about the exact causes of PMS, but definitely attributed to hormones. I would say the present day stress is a very specific triggering factor when it comes to looking at PMS in its very greater form. And when you are trying to say, when we want to communicate, what exactly do we communicate? How do we describe PMS?
How do we make them empathize or understand what we are going through? I think that is the biggest challenge.
Correct. So before that, we'll just understand what exactly happens. So now a lady would face certain physical changes. Now it is a phase which is around 5 to 7 days before menstruation, and women usually have physical symptoms, could be heavy-headedness, could be some cramps in the thighs, sometimes mild abdominal cramps also, a bit of spotting, breast soreness. These are some very common problems which women acquaint. Apart from this, you have irritation. So people at home feel, oh, this lady is now close to a menstruation, or she is just started, and that's why you see all these
cycle.
So all these tantrums have started. So what happens is, because of that kind of stress which she is facing, and hormonal changes of course attributing to it, she feels a little hyper irritable, sometimes feel emotionally vulnerable. There are crying spells which women also experience during this phase. Sleeping disturbances, disturbances in sleep are very common problems which women acquaint during this phase. So apart from all this, their general attributes towards life, many of them have deeper PMS issues. That means chronic PMS and also something which is highly symptomatic, where we feel that yes, there is some attention needed. So what happens exactly during this has to be now explained to somebody. Now this is a challenge. But it is as simple as, I am experiencing something before menstrual cycle. This is something which is natural, but women should also understand that they cannot take shelter under this problem.
Yeah.
So I am also from the same community, the same women tribe, but we should know that these problems are also based on how we modulate ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally. And of course, when we probably take shelter to an extent in spirituality, follow things, daily discipline, yoga, and have some basic daily discipline, then we can probably have better PMS, is what I would say.
Ma'am, but apart from not being able to communicate or communicate, there are people who definitely do understand, but we have also seen that students who are studying BDS, MBBS, people are studying law, these higher education, when they, during their studies or whole education term, when they go through PMS, it becomes very difficult for them. In fact, I mean, we know of a woman that who was about to give her examinations but was suffering from very difficult PMS. what advice would you like to give to these students, and how, you know, how they can manage better so that their education is not affected?
Right. See, first of all, when somebody is pursuing higher education, or you know, someone is really in a very senior management role,
Yeah.
they have lot of things at their disposal. So what that creates is an amount of pressure on you, and the body should have the ability to tolerate that pressure. If the body doesn't have the ability to tolerate the pressure, then the body is going to be very responsive. So the reaction
Okay.
to a particular stimulus, instead of being this much, is going to be this much. You know, it can also be this much. So how are we essentially modulating our nervous system, because of which the endocrine system is also therefore regulated, is very important. So it's the nervous system, the endocrine system, and that's where the manifestation is in the form of PMS. So now if you understand the way this works, we'll have to start working on first saying calm down. The nervous system should be in that mode. When I say calm down, it doesn't mean that the person is always sitting calm and doing nothing and trying to meditate in office, but trying to say, how do I push my nervous system to actually be very, very efficient, but also in a way that it is not extremely responsive. That is what we call as reducing the sympathetic arousal.
Okay.
And this is where our lifestyle modifications come into picture. You talk to any gynecologist, you know, any other very well known, even modern medicine practitioner, or even the other complementary systems, everybody knows very correctly that this is something which is very, very important. Lifestyle modification. So we are talking about it. Now, we've already said, you know, Ayurveda describes what we call as dinacharya, yoga describes what we call as yama and niyama. These are specific practices which can bring in the discipline in an individual. So when you look at dinacharya, it talks about what time you wake up to what time you sleep.
Yes.
Now, what time you wake up? Now, people want to wake up at 9, not possible on a weekday, but they will do this probably on a weekend. Now, but the weekday phenomena, especially what we call as Monday blues, is still existing, because the weekend is so erratic that coming back to a very disciplined,
It's
lifestyle
difficult.
and a work schedule on the next 5 days is going to be very difficult. So why should we first not think to have some moderate way of living? Right? On a weekend, maybe wake up an hour late, but it can't be like weekend I am just,
Gonna
bindas.
sleep like 14 hours.
Right? So that attitude of people have to change, men and women equally. But if women can understand how their body functions, then these are the tips which are going to be essential. So have basic lifestyle modifications in place. Ensure that exercise is taken care, physical activity every day, minimum 20 to 30 minutes per day. Ensure you do a lot of breathing exercises, and yoga of course talks a lot about breathing, emphasizes only on the right breathing, because that can bring down the sympathetic arousal. So it's like a balance. So you have to get this back, it's like this or get this back. So this is where the nervous system will start helping the person behave normally or feel better from within. And of course, apart from this is diet, right? When we look at diet, women are asked to take some good micronutrient, or calcium rich food, and what we otherwise call as is use sattvic food. So because sattvic food is something which can be very, very supportive to the gut health. Now we talk about Agni, which is the metabolic fire. So sattvic food, which is little on the bland side, non-oily, non-fried.
But how frequently should we be taking it? Because I think in general these days it will be difficult for people to switch completely to sattvic
Correct.
food.
So at least before pre-menstruation, we are talking about PMS. So at least maybe 4-5 days before menstruation, it's not like get into sattvic food completely. If it's possible, yes. Otherwise, at least try to take something which is non-oily, non-spicy. Oil in cooking, normal oil is fine, but then you should not probably take fried food, oily food, eat less of junk. So keep your gut health good. So the Agni, what Ayurveda describes, is the one which has to be actually kept under balance. So once the Agni is under check, it means your endocrine activity is also definitely going to be under better check, and therefore you will experience less PMS. Many of them don't experience PMS.
I
So
have
let's
not met anybody who does not experience PMS, but yeah, if you are one of them, you're very lucky.
Right. So it's all about, you know, understanding the problem, working towards it.
All right. So, ma'am, since we spoke about how we can maybe have some changes in our diet in the luteal phase, the start of the luteal phase, anything that you can give, 2-3 pointers where we can make changes in the follicular phase as well, or pre-ovulation, so that, with time we can maybe fix our PMS to an extent.
Right. So two phases here in menstruation. So some women also face problems before ovulation.
Okay.
Before ovulation also, they find some wetness, they
Yes.
also find mood swings. They also have other physical, soreness in the body. So these things are definitely due to hormonal changes. So we see a 28-day cycle. Okay, you see the first 14 days, then there is a surge of the hormone progesterone, and then again you see the luteal phase, there is a surge of estrogen, and then comes menstruation. So pre-ovulatory changes are once again something which need not be highly regulated unless it is something which is troubling the person. Sometimes we feel some women have spotting, some women have ovulatory pain. So the ovulation, the pain
Yes.
they experience itself
Yes.
is quite intense, and some of them land up taking some analgesics. But this needs care, okay? So they have to meet the doctor and understand why this is happening, rather than just popping some pill and saying, okay, I'm fine now and let me look at it next month.
Ma'am, as you mentioned these few symptoms like soreness, tenderness and wetness, aren't these normal symptoms, or should we treat them as a red flag, and anybody who is experienced these symptoms maybe should meet a gynecologist or an expert?
Now, these are not typical red flags, but they are a part of the changes. Unless they are beyond the level of tolerance, I think it is okay. The wetness should not be in such a way that they have too much of discomfort, or there is some bad odor, or there is some itching, or there is a curdish white discharge, yellowish discharge, then it needs attention. So likewise, when they have spotting which is beyond a certain level, usually ovulatory spotting is not always seen as a good sign.
Okay.
Sometimes it needs attention, so we also can attend to it. And apart from that is pain and soreness. These are fine, unless they are bothering the person too much.
So then definitely if during ovulation there is even like 1 or 2 drops of blood, we should definitely find time out and go to an expert.
Yes.
Ma'am, as you also mentioned about taking medicines, many of us who have experienced like tremendous pain during their periods, it can be many other issue related as well, PCOS or endometriosis, but there are like good number of women who are completely healthy, but they still experience very much pain during their periods. Is there any, first of all, is it safe to take medicines, painkillers, or I don't want to name those medicines that people usually take, but we all know those names. Are these medicines safe to take?
See, medicines are definitely not safe to take if it is an over-the-counter medication, unless your gynecologist or the doctor has suggested you to take. This is something which everybody has to underline, because there are different drugs, especially modern medical interference is definitely needed, and without that nobody should venture. But they have to understand that menstrual pain, mild, is common, it's a part of menstruation, because it's like the uterus is crying. Let's understand, when you start crying and you cry for more than 10 minutes, don't you feel a little sore in your eyes?
Yeah.
You do feel. So just understand that it is also something like that. But first of all, what exactly is happening in menstruation? Many of them know. So you have the uterus which is ready to probably invite a fertilized egg, but since that is not happening, it is shedding that particular layer which is like a cushion inside the uterus, and that is nothing but menstruation. So it is going out for a period of 3 to 5 days, and when women are probably spinsters, at that point of time there is a chance for the aggravation in pain. But many a times after vaginal deliveries, the pain also reduces, it becomes nil for women, because the vaginal passage has been expanded. There is a pelvic expansion which has happened, which also helps in reducing the pain or nullifying it completely.
It's not a myth. It's true.
It's true, yes. But those women who have had childbirth but C-section will still remain with the same pain. So I think
course.
this is where we say stress on vaginal delivery.
I think we should advise them to take vaginal delivery, because if you're getting rid of the pain, then it's totally worth it maybe.
Right. But there are other reasons for pain also. So we should not, neglect those signs. If the dysmenorrhea or menstrual pain is something which is beyond a limitation of tolerance, then the person, the young lady or the older adult should consult, because there are many problems including PCOS, endometriosis, adenomyosis, which all come with very severe menstrual pain and
Yeah.
premenstrual pain. These are the women who have lot of premenstrual stress.
Ma'am, of course, we should not be popping any medicines. I think I should be a student to that. But is there any other way, for example, we have come to learn through various interactions that Shirodhara is one of the ways where you can de-stress yourselves, and there are many breathing exercises in yoga, many yoga related specifically to PMS and menstruation. Can you just shed some light on that?
Right, yeah. So Shirodhara is a very well-known, popular Ayurveda therapy where there is warm medicated oil poured or streamed on the forehead. Now we use various types of medicated oil there. Now how does it work? It works even in reducing PMS because the person experiences low stress. So there is stress, but the impact of stress on the body, on the system is lesser, because Shirodhara also works on calming down your nervous system. That's how it helps. And women who experience regular PMS can definitely take maybe 1 or 2 Shirodhara a week before the menstruation.
So are you saying just the beginning of the luteal phase?
Little later, so maybe a week before their actual menstrual cycle. So if it's a 30-day cycle, maybe around the 21st day, 22nd day, around that they can take a Shirodhara session. They can also start being very regular with yoga practices, especially breathing. Lot of breathing practices or pranayama practices like Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, Bhramari Pranayama, sectional breathing. This is another very, very simple yet effective breathing technique, and these have to be performed or practiced regularly. That would help. Beyond this, certain asanas. Okay, so there are some asanas where when done at least 1 week before the menstrual cycle, significantly they have shown to have reduced the menstrual pain. So this is the impact which lifestyle change can actually bring in for a lady who is experiencing regular pain during menstruation. But yes, we'll have to always keep in mind that is it a regular pain without any problem, or is it a pain with a problem? So now if this is differentiated, then we can manage it accordingly.
Okay. And ma'am, since we were asking many women from the age of 20 to 30 years of age, so viewers, we do have Dincharya sessions here at Vivekananda Health Global, where ma'am obviously takes you through how life should be led from the lens of Ayurveda and yoga. So we got many questions over there from the women community, where women wanted to understand, in some cases they are getting regular periods, but the flow is not what they think it should be. It's quite low, and they think, it's their perception that because of this they are gaining weight. It can be inflammation, it can be weight gain. How true is this? And if this is true at all, then what should be done about it?
It's a scanty menstruation needs attention unless you're somebody who's above 40. Otherwise, it is also an index of good menstrual health, and menstrual health is otherwise a very important factor for the woman not to have other reproductive health issues as well going further. So when we look at scanty menstruation, there are certain issues like as common as PCOS, which can lead to scanty menstruation, and you see large population in urban India suffering from a problem like PCOS. And apart from this, scanty menstruation can happen in various other problems. And another common issue is reduction in hemoglobin, right? So if somebody has less hemoglobin, then also they can see scanty menstruation. So basic suggestion is, yes, you have to meet your doctor, understand the reason. But there are many things which we also recommend when it comes to Ayurveda, and we use medication, understanding the underlying problem, and ensure that the correction is established. Now, as per Ayurveda, we talk about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So, principally, we start understanding whether this person is showing a Kapha based problem, or the person is experiencing a Vata based problem. For example, high pain during menstruation is said to be a Vata related problem. So now what we do, we give an anti-Vata or a Vata balancing therapy, which includes a very nice oil massage every day, self massage. We might give them oils, and we might ask them to do take some medication, which also helps in balancing the Vata, because gut or the Agni, which I just described, also has to be put under balance, because if your gut health is not okay, if somebody is constipated, menstrual pain is going to be more. So this is the way we start understanding the problem and start treating them. And of course, 100% inclusion of yoga, and many a times severe abdominal discomfort or pelvic discomfort is managed very, very well with acupuncture intervention. So this is the way a holistic intervention can be planned, but we need to know the underlying cause.
So ma'am, scanty menstruation can be one of the reasons to weight gain, is that true?
Yes, suppose it's scanty menstruation related to PCOS, or scanty menstruation related to hypothyroidism. Then it definitely leads to weight gain.
So what do you suggest? I mean, just to begin with, if somebody comes to me and if they share this problem, is it safe to tell them maybe go get your thyroid checked and maybe go get an ultrasound done to see if you have PCOS or PCOD?
So I think they should not do anything themselves. They can just consult the expert, and then go back to the expert, take the suggestion, and then feel better.
All right. And ma'am, you also mentioned one more thing. If you are heavily constipated, then you will have more menstruation pain. How is this interrelated?
So if there's constipation, the bowel gas accumulation is higher. So where is the bowel? The bowel is in the lower abdomen and abdominal area, and uterus is a pelvic organ. So because of bowel gas being higher, evacuation not being clear, so the gut generates a lot of other flora which are not very congenial to the overall metabolism, and that can increase pain. So one simple remedy we give is take jeera water, or take sips of warm jeera water during the first day of menstruation. Take it, maybe a liter, boil some jeera water, keep a liter of it, and then use it just recurrently, like sip tea. Instead of that, sip this. And that can really help in making them feel lighter, improve the the menstrual flow as well. But they have to always remember, if there's an underlying cause, they have to attend to it. This cannot be just a tip which everybody follows.
But if anybody has to, then we should be taking jeera water for how many days?
Jeera and Somf water, both of them are equally good. The first 2-3 days it's highly recommended. That makes your digestion good, so you don't feel that bloating which many girls and women undergo during the first 2-3 days. And you feel lighter, and you feel comfortable.
All right. So moving forward, ma'am, we also saw, we were very lucky, by the way, to have viewers from 15 years to 20 years of age, where we had many curious girls who wanted to understand, is it safe to use menstruation cup or sanitary napkins, which is a much safer approach towards the menstruation.
Right. So menstrual cups are usually not recommended in very young girls. So sanitary pads are recommended. Nowadays you get cotton pads, you also get reusable cotton cloth based pads which are leak proof. So it's very important to understand what are the other options in the market rather than just using a simple synthetic sanitary pad, because it also has a lot of chemicals. So that can affect the women, because nobody knows how the vaginal absorption and the vaginal area can really be upheld with the right protection in terms of right usage of the right things. In terms of using sustainable material, can really help them upkeep their health and sustain their menstrual health as well. And when it comes to the usage of the same in elder women, that is anything is okay. It's per their choice, their comfort. But sanitary pads, as I just said, switch on to a different
To a more
set
sustainable,
usage of this, then it's their choice. Because many women experience discomfort in menstrual cups, and sometimes they also experience some pain. So if it's something like that, you don't have to always follow the trend. If the trend is for you, you can follow it.
So, ma'am, what age do you suggest women can use menstrual cups, if at all our viewers want to use menstrual cups?
So above 18 is fine. Above 16 is also fine, but not very young girls.
Not very young. Okay. And ma'am, we also got some some questions from our viewers where they wanted to understand why are they getting pimples, why are they getting chapped lips, why are they getting more anxious. More anxious, I do understand, is a PMS part, but these physical changes like pimples and chapped lips, dry under eyes, why are they getting these symptoms and what can they do about it?
So premenstrual spurts, you see all of these problems. So these are definitely attributed to hormonal changes, but they can increase because of lifestyle issues. Okay, so young students, who are in their just above their teens, young adults, I would say, between say 18 to 24, where most of them are studying, they have very unfixed routine. So they don't have something which is under their control. Either they are studying in the night and then they want to sleep from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. then just they have to rush up. You also, so I see a lot of these students who are also studying abroad who come here and they start having these problems. A very recent girl I met, she's about 19-year-old. She comes with a TSH level of 46.
Wow.
Right, so parents give a history that probably a year before she had some fluctuation, but nothing as much as this. And then she just comes with a lot of breakouts, weight gain, all this has happened. So parents are very, very anxious. She's studying outside India and now she comes for a break and this is her condition. She's here only for 2 months. Now how do we do? So the holistic prescription and the advice which we were able to give, and as the team supported from VAG, really went well. And in about 2 months we saw the dip and she almost came down to 6 TSH, which was not the expected reduction. Okay, so as a physician, I was also not expecting her to come down so much, but we never gave her any medication. We just started working on her metabolism and changed her lifestyle. What was her lifestyle? She was waking up all the night, not taking her food on time, and she was just eating whatever she got, 0 vegetables, almost very small portion of fruits, lot of cheese, lot of processed food, and that actually changed life for her negatively. And she understood, and she was so meticulous when she was on treatment that she could see the best changes in herself, and she understood what went wrong and now how she should plan. So she's already planned her schedule, she's already left from here, and then she says, no, I'm going to do this. I know how to manage my classes, how to manage my yoga, manage my sleep, and I will work on it. This is where people should become more aware before getting into the problem, because we see more and more young adults getting into issues. I see many class 12 students under tremendous stress of performance. There's no problem in performing, but is that essential or is it possible by everyone to take that stress? Is all what the person and the parents have to understand.
Yes, I think, ma'am, parents have to understand it first, because we cannot expect a young adult to know everything at that age.
Correct.
Okay. So, ma'am, you did mention taking cheese and whatever she was getting. I think and last time, if you watched the episode, we did ask a very good question about whether or not we should take coffee. I think you should go and watch it. You'll get the answer. You might be disappointed, but you'll get the answer. So, ma'am, we do, get a very confused question these days that what should be my dairy consumption? How should I consume dairy? If at all I should consume dairy, because of all these problems that women are having, pimples, chapped lips, tremendous pain, anxiety. So does dairy have any effect, or is it all just, we are all confused because of so much of information around us?
I think both are true.
Okay.
Right? So dairy consumption is something which is based on the quality from which it comes,
Okay.
right? So, and the source. So basically it's the source. So nowadays, how do you get the right source of dairy is definitely questionable.
Yes.
Still, if you go a little more deeper, try to understand, you might get people who are still milking their cows at home and trying to supply their own community. If you're very fond of, you'll have to venture into something like this. Or like, earlier days, all of us should have one cow at home and probably nurture the cow with all the right things and then have. So then dairy is never contraindicated,
Okay.
right? But what is contraindicated is processed dairy, which is cheese, paneer mainly. But what Ayurveda also highly indicates is ghee. Ghee is something which is regularly recommended by Ayurveda physicians, and many of them are asked to drink lot of ghee when we
Yes.
do Panchkarma procedures. That's a different thing totally. But on a daily basis, when we ask a person to use ghee, sourcing the ghee is very important. Okay, otherwise there's no point in taking the wrong ghee. Just go pick it up from a supermarket and start using. That is not going to help. So, but how it helps if you have the right ghee from the right source? It helps in balancing your metabolism, helps in balancing what we call as pitta, because that is the one which actually is able to neutralize your acidity, neutralize your enzymatic reactions, therefore avoiding problems such as acidity or gastritis, right? And that's how that simple remedy was brought into our daily routine. You have rice, you have dal, you put some ghee and eat it.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether it's any part of India, I think it's almost there everywhere.
Because ma'am, since people are going to gym these days and they are trying to consume more and more protein, we have seen and we have got people as well at Vivekananda Health Global where people come and tell that they are consuming at least 50 grams of paneer every day. And then of course everything follows after that consumption. It's a very difficult solution, to be honest, ma'am, that nobody is going to have a cow at home until unless it's AI driven right now. So should we avoid things like paneer and cheese completely, or should we maybe try to figure out how we can get good milk and start making all of these dairy products at home?
See, paneer has been a part of the Indian culinary. So obviously paneer made at home is not contraindicated, but unless the person has a health concern, say an increase in cholesterol or triglycerides, then definitely it will be contraindicated. Otherwise a person can take, okay, but it also depends on getting out of this, the factor that I need lot of protein.
Yes.
Right? So this has also slightly gone overboard, I would say. It's not necessary that everybody takes 30 grams of paneer, take 30 grams of a plant protein, etc. You can have plant-based protein in food and probably eat it. You can also take paneer, but understand whether there is a requirement, because many young adults are facing lot of health concerns because of this unprotected aspect of protein intake.
I can just imagine how people are feeling right now while you are addressing these questions. So ma'am, coming back to PMS, our original concern, is there anything, as an expert to it, something that you would like to address from your own end to, just to stitch things around, close the topic for our viewers?
Right. So one is PMS is a part of your menstrual cycle. You should not definitely get very vulnerable to it. Understand that there are remedies and there are solutions. If you have a kind of PMS sign and symptom which is troubling you, also do not definitely accept the situation and think that, oh, this is there all the time with me. And also never make yourself vulnerable, because you have all the power within you to control. You can communicate to your male colleagues, partners, at home, at workplace, and this is a natural phenomena. You should not shy away from it, but you should also not take advantage of it.
Thank you ma'am, thank you once again, and thank you viewers for supporting us, and stay tuned for the next episode of Womb Wisdom, where we talk more about perimenopause, which is, I think, the topic which is least talked about.
Right, very true. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.